Hello and welcome to another Big Brain Media podcast. I'm joined today. First off, my name is JoelfromAus and I am joined here today with Bliestek. How you doing, Bliestek?
Yeah, good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Just
Great.
Before we get into the actual stuff, is your recording all right? And you're seeing the little bars going up and down?
yes, they are.
Right. I didn't think to ask before the recording.
Can we add little bloopers into the podcast and the beep at the end?
That has gotten me once before, so I need to ask that question.
That'd be a one-sided conversation otherwise.
Well, that's right. It's even worse if you're recording the other person. I've had that before as well. All right, today we're talking about Apple's October event where they announced new Macbooks. They announced new colors for a fantastic device, and they look amazing. Just trying to trigger you.
Oh, sorry. I'm good.
Yep. And a few other things like performance improvements and that. To start off with, so I've actually written the question here on our little shared document a bit wrong. So they've got Apple Music Voice. Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I believe so. Which is an interesting development for sure. Not something I expected that Apple would release.
So what I've seen someone actually explain what this service is and what it's aimed at now. When they announced it, I could not put my finger on exactly what the service was. And it sounded like they were making a part of Siri premium. So you had to pay extra money to be able to access this part of Siri. What it actually is if you don't have an Apple Music subscription, you can pay and access Apple Music by voice command only. And people have pointed out this may be for two things: to target people who have like an Apple device, like a HomePod, but don't have any other physical Apple stuff, which is really stupid because you have to actually activate those things with like an iPhone. But it opens up the possibility they could sell these devices without the use of a iDevice to set them up, and then you could pay $6 a month and have like unlimited music on your HomePod.
Yeah, and I mean, from my experience, so I must admit I do not have a HomePod, but I've got some Google Homes that occasionally it would have been handy to have a YouTube subscription, which I do now. But when you like try and just Google play this song, it plays it through YouTube, and then all of a sudden ads.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my goodness. So really, I think that's probably what they're trying to really target is just I think it's mainly aimed around the HomePods, maybe CarPlay. Stuff like that, if you're just wanting music on the road. And also, I think it's very much around trying to promote Siri. Yeah. So,
which Siri, as someone pointed out, they said that they would not pay for the service, mostly because Siri is not up to scratch. Because if you were to ask them to play a very unknown song, and as someone pointed out, they're like, you try saying on an English device the song name from a Scandinavian heavy metal band, I can guarantee you Siri's going to get it wrong.
That's right.
Well, it's like that music user interface.
Like that music, like Asgeir or Asgeir, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Like. I can never pronounce his name right, and Siri never knows what I'm talking about. Even though I've got a playlist with his name, I can't figure out how to pronounce the little, a little apostrophe above the E or whatever.
The accent,
Accent, sorry, But each to their own, I guess.
Yeah, it just sounds like a really weird move, and of course, Apple, in their usual wisdom, talked it up to be, amazing, and I can't believe, we're doing this, and I can't wait for you to get your hands on it. It's like, I don't think anyone's going to want that, dude.
No, I think it would just be probably the very lightweight, like people that aren't really into the Apple ecosystem, but they want to have the smart home stuff.
Yeah, very possible.
Because a HomePod can be a smart hub as well. So that's probably more what it's around.
True. Moving forward onto the new AirPods, which very cool. Very happy with those.
They look to me like they're basically just Pros without the silicon part on the end.
Yep. And that's perfect. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like I've got 2 sets of headphones at the moment. I've got my old AirPods that I haven't sold because I leave them at my workplace, and then I've got my Pros. And the 2 things that strike me: one, Pros start to hurt my ears after wearing them for like an hour or more. So if I'm doing house cleaning and stuff, eventually I'm like, I got to take these headphones out because the actual little buds start to feel like pressure.
Yes,
whereas the old ones are super comfortable because they just sit there. But the old ones also have that really long stem and that. So wearing them at work, I mean, I'm the only person wearing them at work, so I stick out pretty badly. So the fact that they've found a middle ground where it's that form factor of the Pros, where it's still a just sitting your ear, not an actual in-ear headphone.
Yeah. Yep.
Fantastic. Spatial audio now on the regular AirPods, which is fantastic.
Yeah. Oh, I love spatial audio. Yeah. When I first heard about it ages ago, because I was a little bit skeptical, but lately I've been using it quite a lot with my iPad, and oh man, it's something else, isn't it?
So I watched most of the Loki series on Disney Plus on my phone for 2 reasons. One, my HDR TV tends to do some funny things with darker shows, like as in darkly lit shows like Loki. So I watched on my phone because it's an OLED, and I was using the spatial audio, and sort of came to the conclusion after a few episodes that the spatial audio was, to me, better quality than my home theater system. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. You hear a lot of audio files, which, just to be clear, I don't agree with that. People who have that title, them saying that it's not as good as like a $20,000 home theater setup, and of course it's not. You're talking about a $300 pair of headphones.
Like, what do you expect?
$1,000. Of course, it's not as good as that, but it's well and truly more than enough.
Yeah, for sure. And like if you compare it to those headphones to the Pros, so the only thing they really lack is the active noise cancellation and transparency.
True.
That's ultimately it. And they've actually got an hour and a half longer battery life than the Pros.
Yeah, and MagSafe, which makes me wonder if they're going to release like a Series 2 Pros with the MagSafe.
Well, case. I don't know if you obviously haven't seen this, but they've updated the Pro case.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, they did, which is annoying because now it's like, I use MagSafe. I've got MagSafe for my phone. And now I'm like, I want it for my Pros, but I don't want to buy a new case.
See, I don't use MagSafe, so I'm good. The next thing, we all knew the M1 chip was getting an upgrade. That was just a given. But what happened? What happened to the M2 or the M1X? All these rumor mongers were so confident.
Yeah, I know.
To be fair, they
I kind of
the
like
AirPods
what they've done.
Before we go too far, the rumors came out of the AirPods, and they made a little a quip in the presentation where they said, "What you're hearing has been true," or something like that, and you're like, the rumors was spot on.
Yeah, well, I know that they've been internally trying to get on top of the information leaking. So it makes me think that some stuff has been starting to be planted intentionally. Out there. So, and then Apple, obviously, if it gets out, Apple know they can start to track down where the leaks are coming from. So as well, because they know who they've leaked it to. Yeah. And, that's what I've heard anyway. But yeah, they're pretty cool.
But yeah, so the M1 itself is a pretty powerful chip, and now we've got the M1 Pro, which builds upon that greatly, and then the M1 Max, which is basically more or less the Pro, but then with a lot of extra GPU horsepower and a lot of extra shared memory, like a lot.
Yeah, and the bandwidth is ridiculous. So we're looking at the Pro But yeah, the Pro has a 10-core CPU, 16-core GPU, 32 gig of unified memory, and 200 gigabit a second memory bandwidth, versus the Max with a 32-core GPU, so double, 64 gig of unified memory, or up to, and up to 400 gigabit a second memory bandwidth. So literally double GPU, double memory, double memory bandwidth. So pretty nuts. But with that also comes a hefty price tag.
Yes. So I watched and I was messaging you at the time. I watched the presentation. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, this is so unbelievable. I'm like, I wonder how much they cost. So in Australia, they start at, was it 3,000 essentially?
Yeah, 3,000, 2,999. Yeah.
Yeah. So $3,000 for the base MacBook Pro. But
even that, that one there, I believe, is an 8-core. I don't think it was even it is. So it's they've made it specifically for the 14-inch model. Yep. They've actually made an 8-core, 14-core GPU model. So it's only for the very base one. So the standard Pro CPU though, the standard Pro processor starts at 37.49 Australian.
Yeah, so
which is a lot.
$4,000 for a laptop.
So and that's the same price as the entry level 16-inch.
Yeah.
The only difference between the 14 and the 16 for the same price is that the 14 gets a 1 terabyte SSD, and the 16 gets a 512 gig SSD. So it's pretty.
It sounds by that I still won't be getting a MacBook.
Yeah, well, I think the thing comes down to, I guess, working out what you need to do and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You see, the thing is that this was bound to happen, and whilst the Pro and the Max are great, the M1 is also great.
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that people are probably going to go, oh, no, I have to get a Pro, I have to get a Max. But like, well, yeah, but the M1's actually still like better than majority of the processors out there still.
Right.
It's just that this is better again.
The one problem there, the M1 only available in that 13-inch form factor.
Yes, correct.
So for a person like me, I think mine's a 14-inch laptop, and I'd like to go to 16 because the 14 is just a bit too small.
Yeah.
But of course, that's like a $4,000 laptop you're talking about. Well, MacBook, I should say.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yes, it is. It's pretty steep, but
but
and the 16-inch is the only one that can get the Max CPU, and that starts at 5,249.
To be fair, the Max CPU, that's well and truly aimed at people who are professional, content creation, and I mean that as in the content creators on YouTube, but also people who are doing 3D modeling and simulating and all that sort of stuff. I can see them getting that, but not the average Joe.
Yeah.
Unless you've got too much disposable income, in which case my email address is, just look me up. I'll take some of that off your hands.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I do find interesting that they've done is they're actually still using their USB-C power adapters.
Yep.
So even though they've gone to the MagSafe, they I'm guessing it must be MagSafe on one end and USB-C the other.
Yes.
Which is interesting because they did mention, and I'm actually glad they did, but during the presentation that the USB-C ports can still charge the laptops.
Yeah.
You don't have to use the MagSafe port, which is good because USB-C docks and stuff nowadays can charge the computer as well. So when they announced the MagSafe thing, I was like, oh yeah, that's great, but that's also a pain because I use a USB-C dock at work for my MacBook Pro at the moment. Yep. And it charges it and everything through the dock. So, but yeah, so it's interesting to know.
It's also great of them to bring back a lot of the ports and features that they removed. In the previous.
Did you hear them make the little quip about that?
Oh, yeah, I 100% heard that. And they said, all without a single adapter. I'm just like, well, look here, you.
We reinvented the already invented.
we put the cart before the horse, and then we realized we did it wrong. So then we put the horse before the cart again.
Yeah. We just timed it perfectly, so it was like this new big thing. Yeah. And people will buy it.
That's it. So it's pretty cool developments. I'm actually really keen to see where the M1, assuming they stick to the M1 as the moniker, goes when it goes into the... Is it Mac Pros? Is that the workstation computer? You know, the one that you can spec up currently to like $45,000 or something
Mac
crazy?
Pros. Yeah.
It'll be interesting what sort of horsepower they can pull out of these ARM-based chips. Yeah.
I dare say there'll be like a higher core count Max model that will be released. I mean, because there seems to be multiple different core counts of the Pros and multiple different core counts of they're just the base level M1s. So the Max is currently the only one that's restricted on how many cores it's got. So yeah, I dare say that will probably be what happens.
The M1 Pro Max Plus.
Yeah, that'd be right. And it'd be interesting too because they still only have the iMacs in the 24-inch ones, I think they were, or 23.5s or whatever. They're the only ones of the M series at the moment. The 27s are still Intel.
Yep.
So that's we're pretty keen to see what happens with there because we're kind of holding up at work of getting some for that reason actually.
I'm actually a little bit surprised, and I do wonder if they'll release those with the M1 Pro and Max in them. Like just
I think they will.
Those same Pro chips. Just throw them in the 27-inch.
I think that's pretty much what Apple seem to be doing. Is they're making like the entry range of MacBooks, which you still got a MacBook Pro, and in the 13-inch variety, but these are kind of like your highly affordable stuff. And then for power users, they'll give the 14 and the 16. I think the 24-inch. I mean, you saw it when it came out. It's very much sort of a eye candy designed for my mum who's in the kitchen to use sort of scenario. Whereas I have a feeling that the 27s and that when they come are going to be a bit more like beastie horsepower-y sort of things. Not so much aimed at that audience, and they'll be a lot more expensive price tag to boot. So we're interested to see how that goes anyway. But I must admit the notch, interesting touch. So
it's and the more I read up onto it, like as someone who doesn't use Mac computers, I thought it was like, what are they doing? But to find out about is it home or the top bar, whatever they call it?
Yeah, because there's always the bar along the top.
Yeah, and how they're going to handle that with the notch. I was like, oh, okay, so you're basically moving that screen real estate taken up by that bar, moving it upwards and giving you more real estate, usable real estate on your screen. Like,
that's
okay,
right.
Yeah, okay.
Which is kind of what they've done with the iPhone as well. Like if you look at it, from that point of view, like the only thing that's really up there is your battery and your wireless and all that, and your phone carrier.
Yep.
All the time. Yeah. So really, like they've just moved them out of the way, so you've got the rest of your real estate. So I actually think it's brilliant. The one letdown though that I have, and like little annoying thing about this is that I really wish they'd brought Face ID.
Yeah, actually, so I was watching Marcus Brownlee, and I'm sure you have as well. And the one thing he pointed out was it's interesting they made the notch so large. I wonder if they're planning to add that in the future.
So, like, whether they've got the components already there, just not turned on.
No, more that. So, if they added a small notch at the moment for a camera, and
then increase it later,
people would complain. But if you add a large notch now with the big revamp, and then later on be like, hey, that big notch that was kind of, had one camera, now we've put all the Face ID suite in there.
Yes,
Yeah, and I agree, actually, is Face ID has for me on my phone changed everything because it's just so great to just look at your phone. It's unlocked.
It is. Oh, I absolutely love it. It's brilliant.
So having that on a computer would be fantastic, but I am not using Windows Hello.
Yeah, I've started using that lately. Actually, that's
oh really?
I've been having an interesting experience. Not a bad one. It's not as good. Definitely not as good as Apple's biometrics, but it's Microsoft.
And we'll close off on your favorite announcement that they made a big deal about, which was the HomePod Mini getting different colors.
You know what? The blue. I can live with that. I think that's a nice color, the dark blue, and the black, and then the white. But the other two, I don't know. I feel like someone's trying to get retro at Apple, and it's not working.
Yeah, because you're talking that sort of mango orange. And
well, I'd rather call it
that yellow reminds me of
mustard. What?
Well,
Sorry.
First off, yes, but like 70s carpet all used to be that color.
Well, that's what the first thing when I first saw them, the orange and the yellow, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking 70s. Yeah. Because both of those colors were very 70s colors. And I was just kind of like, why? But I guess they're doing that a little bit with the Mac, as well. The iMacs, because what colors do they come in? Yeah, see, they come in the orange and the yellow and as well.
Same colors?
Yeah. but they also come in red and purple and green and blue as well.
Okay. I'm a little bit disappointed because then you could get an iMac and a matching HomePod Mini to put next to it,
Well, you could. That's right. But I don't know. I just I'm not going for those colours. I think it might be a little bit of homage back to Apple's origins where they were sort of when they were first finding colour. Yeah. But it's just. I live in 2021. The 70s cold, and I want their colours back.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't want them up here in 2021.
We will cover more because we're looking to do a bit of an episode about smart homes and smart devices and things we recommend and don't recommend and stuff like that. So we'll be bringing up the HomePod Mini in that, I'm sure.
Indeed, for sure.
But that'll be a later date. At the moment, we might close out on that. Thank you very much for joining me, Bliestek. It's been good.
Nice. Yeah, thanks for having me.
And
been a pleasure.
We'll speak next time around.
No worries. Thanks for listening, everyone.